All right, so we're going to talk about week 13 here. Not that. There we go. All right, so we're in week 13 and we're starting our last unit, and our last unit is on evaluative writing. Do you know what evaluative writing is? Okay, so evaluative writing, we do it all the time, and we read it all the time. So if you're buying something on Amazon, before you buy it, what do you read? You read the reviews, right? Do you read the good reviews or the bad reviews or a mixture of both? Yeah, I like to go straight to the bad reviews because those are the ones that tell me it breaks really fast, you can't get replacement parts, like this thing's a mess. Or if the negative reviews are like, they ruined it in shipping, I'm like, well, that's your UPS guy's fault, not their fault. So I can really tell more from the bad reviews than from the good reviews, right? What else do we review on a regular basis? You ever read reviews of a restaurant before you decide to go there? What else yeah, what else do we review before we try it? Right, and if you've noticed a lot of people are complaining about the airline or something like that, you're like, maybe pick this other airline. Absolutely. So reviews are just a big part of our lives. You're students in school, so you read reviews of your work all the time, right? So we know a few things about reviews. The first thing you want to know is what's the rating? Is it a 5 out of 5 stars? Is it 4.5 stars? Is it 2 stars? Is it 1 star? Or we want to know what our grade is, right? Our students are like, okay, if I just told you this was a good essay and here's what to work on, you'd be like, okay, look, crazy lady, I need to know my grade. Right, so the rating or the grade is a big important thing, and that's going to be our thesis for this essay, right? Is whether we liked it, whether we disliked it, and what kind of a rating we would give it, right? And then we're going to back it up using criteria, and this is where this is where our 5 paragraphs come from, because usually when you read a review, it's a few sentences and you're done, and we have to build a whole essay out of it, right? So in this case, we're going to review some short films that I've provided for you, right? And there are 3 short films, and you don't have to like any of them, right? Because the whole point of a review is not that you have to like it, but to say whether you liked it or not, okay? You don't have to do a single tiny bit of research for this, none. All you have to do is watch the film, decide if you like it, and explain why you did or why you didn't, or why you have mixed feelings. You can also have a mixed review. We'll talk about that in a minute, okay? So absolutely no looking anything up. Do you need to know the background of the movie and what other people said about it and all that? No. You and your opinion. All right, so here's the bottom line. If you plagiarize on this assignment, you're not passing 101. Because if you can't watch a 10-minute animated film and tell me whether you like it or not in your own words, you're not ready for 102. Right? You're just not. All right, so this is one of those ones where I really want to make absolutely sure that nobody is looking at any outside materials in this unit. That should be a relief. Good Lord, after all the work you had to do with sources and how hard it is to use sources properly, you should be throwing a party that you don't have to do it in this essay. All you have to do is watch these films and write an essay telling me whether you liked it or disliked it or give it a B+ somewhere in the middle, okay? All right, so that's our evaluative writing. And again, our thesis statement is going to be our rating. I watched this film and I would give it a C+, right? And then we want to figure out what our criteria are going to be. Let's say we're reviewing a restaurant. We're not, we're going to review these films, but let's say we're reviewing a restaurant. You would want to rate it on what kind of things? What kind of things make it a good experience or a bad experience? Number 1 would be the service. Okay, so whether they treat you well in the restaurant or not makes a big difference as to whether you want to go there again. I can't believe it's number 2. For me, it's number 1. Okay, cleanliness would be up there, but it's still not my number one. If I don't like the food, I'm not going. So the quality of the food would be number number one for me. Because if it's like baked beans and sushi, I'm not touching it because I don't eat either of those things, right? Right? Right. But it but if I'm going to, let's say I'm picking a Thai restaurant and I go and it's horrible, I'm not going there again. I mean, like, this didn't taste good. This was nasty. The food was bland. It was greasy. It wasn't authentic. I'm not eating this again, right? So for a restaurant, maybe the quality of food, number one, and the service, number two. But cleanliness is another one. Somebody also might choose location, right? They don't want to go to a restaurant where they got to drive for 2 hours to get there, right? Um, We will do that if it's something we've heard is really, really good. But most of the time, we got a 9-year-old in the back, and she's not up for a 2-hour road trip for a dinner out, right? So, and we don't want to pay a babysitter for 2 extra hours for no reason, right? So, location might be free, but it might not be for somebody else. You get to choose your criteria, right? So maybe you are looking for something where there's a destination. Maybe you want to go to Nashville and see the scene and have the experience of that restaurant and have it be like, let's go have a whole weekend around this restaurant. Great. Then location is one of your things for that in a different way. But you're not just spending 5 paragraphs telling me what you ate. Right. So we don't want to, and with the films, we don't want to do that. We don't want to choose the film and spend 5 paragraphs just summarizing it. It's only a 10-minute film, y'all. How much summarizing can you do? It's like, please don't retell the film and then say at the end, it was good. Right? So what you want to do is you want to say, I really liked the animation. I really liked the message of it. I thought it had a good point. It was teaching something cool. And then I thought it was humorous and funny, and I really enjoyed the jokes, right? So those are the things you might want to focus on. If you don't like it, you might say, I lost track of it and couldn't make myself focus on it all the way through. It's only 10 minutes. It ought to keep my focus. If it doesn't, I'd say that's a big failure, right? Or you might say, it was choppy. I didn't like the way it went from one scene to the next. Or you could say, I did not like the message. I thought this was a bad message to get across. Or this didn't seem to have a sense of its audience. It's a cartoon, so it's being marketed to kids, but I don't know what a kid would get out of this. This isn't for kids. Or, wow, I was offended by the language, right? It had lots of salty language in it, and I thought that was rude and I didn't like it, right? It can be a mixture of those things. You can give something a C. Now, a C, if you've got 3 body paragraphs to explain why you gave it a C, I'd say one of those is, it's okay, I liked this part, but I didn't like this and I didn't like this. So 2 negatives and a positive. If it's getting a B, probably 2 positives and a negative, right? If it's getting an A, it should be all positive, because why are you complaining about it if you say you like it, right? If it's getting an F, or a D, it should be all negative, because if you like anything about it, why are you being so mean with your rating, right? So we got to make sure it matches. The same way you hope that your comments on your grades match your grades. If somebody gives you a C and tells you it's a decent paper, you're sitting there wondering why you got a C instead of an A. And you shouldn't have to wonder. You should know exactly what's between your grade and the grade you want, right? And that's what you're doing here with the review. You're explaining where you land. Now, sometimes on this assignment, my students who are in a tutoring class or who are working with a tutor, their tutor tells them that their thesis statement has to be either positive or negative and cannot be mixed. Is that true? Or can you say this gets a B plus? I liked parts of it. You can totally have a mixed review. That's okay. We just need it to be clear. Okay, we just need it to be a clear rating. And that's why I say figure out what your rating scale is going to be. If you're going to rate it with stars or on a 10-point scale or thumbs up, My daughter we always do thumbs up, thumbs down, and hers is very often thumbs in the middle. Right? Well, when she's trying a new food, she very often gives thumbs in the middle because it's new to her. She's not sure about it, but she didn't hate it, right? So thumbs in the middle is a big one in our house for a mixed review. Sometimes she'll kind of go, but it is okay to have a rating system and put it somewhere in the middle. It's unrealistic to think that your only choices are 5 stars and 1 star. If there weren't a range, right? There's a range in all our reviews. I just gave something a 3-star rating. It wasn't offensive to me, but I wouldn't buy it again, right? So, I was a little disappointed. I saved my 1 stars for when I want to say, like, you cheated me out of this money. This is a horrible product. Don't buy this. You're going to be stuck trying to return it and they won't take it back and we hate them now, right? But those are also kind of fun to write. Have you read negative reviews and kind of went, oh, that's hilarious? Like, some of the well-written reviews are actually really fun to read. A good review is really informative and careful and tells you what about it they liked. But the negative reviews, oh my goodness, they can be really funny. So I want you to remember as you're watching these videos that you don't have to like any of them. Every once in a while, I'll get some students emailing and saying, I don't like any of these. Can I pick my own? I'm like, no, just pick one and pan it. Pan it means giving it a really bad review, right? So if you don't like them, this is your chance to put on your complaining pants and complain, right? Like, it was boring, it was violent, it was offensive to human beings everywhere, and nobody should watch this. This was a waste of my time. I'm really genuinely mad that I wasted 10 minutes of my life on this. Get in touch with your inner I'm ticked, right? If you don't like them. You may have seen all 3 of them. Some of them are Pixar videos, some of them are not, but we'll talk about them in a sec. We'll have time to watch them today for the first time. You may want to watch them again at home, taking some notes when you figure it out. But what you have here in week 13 is a video on how to work through the week. So don't skip that, especially if you joined us a little bit late. There's a video on evaluative writing. Now, they are very prescriptive about how you organize it. Don't fuss over that. You're going to organize it the way I'm telling you to organize it, okay? Which is the same way we've organized everything else, that clear rating and your 3 reasons, okay? So don't fuss over the organizing. Just think about it. Just listen to it for that, like, what does a review sound like kind of thing, okay? They're trying to help you differentiate between summarizing something and informing us about it versus reviewing it or evaluating it, right? So informative is where you just tell me all about it, and we're not aiming for that. Evaluative is where you say if you like it and why, right? So it's a review. It's that, did I like this? Did I not like this? And what are my reasons for liking or not liking it? So that's what you're listening for in that video. There is a sample evaluative essay here. Now theirs is on, I will open it, we're going to take a look at it, and we're going to take a look at the essential pieces of it so we know right from the beginning what we're aiming for, okay? So again, we've got a 5-paragraph essay. It's going to be over 750 words, so it needs to be pretty well developed. So remember, go back to your week 4 for what goes in a thesis paragraph. Go back to week 4 and remember those body paragraphs. Go back to week 4 for those concluding paragraphs. This is going right back to the basics. We don't have to do research. We don't have to do anything else. So those basics we learned at the beginning of the semester are in play here, okay? And it should be really straightforward and simple. So I'm going to make this bigger so we can see it a little better. We're going to take a look at that thesis paragraph and kind of break it down a little bit so we remember. The first thing they're doing in this first couple of sentences is raising the subject. So they're raising the subject as talking, okay, I'm talking about restaurants. Yours is going to be like, hey, there's a lot of short films on the internet that you can watch. Okay, YouTube has a million things to watch, right? Just raising the subject naturally, like nobody's forcing you to do this. And then they sort of set the scene, and this is where you tell me which movie you picked. They're telling me about which restaurant they picked and where it is and what it serves and what kind of restaurant it is. You're going to be telling me which movie you picked and basically what it's about overall, right? This is where you do give me a little summary of the movie, maybe pretending that I'm a high school student who hasn't watched it, right? Or a parent who hasn't watched it and is thinking about showing it to their kids or to a youth group, okay? So you're just going to tell us about it. Now, this is where you're going to be tempted to look stuff up about it and tell me what else the director made and when it was, when it was published and when it first came out and all. Please don't. Please just tell me in your own words what it was about. Just watch it and tell me what it was about. Okay? There's no research in this. You don't have to look up anything. Yay! We're really sick of that with the research essay. Take the money and run here. This is easier. Okay? All right. And then they have, and I highlighted it for you, they have their rating, which is their thesis statement in this essay. And their thesis statement, again, is about a restaurant, but it doesn't matter. The structure is the same. Every aspect of the restaurant here film for you gets an A+ rating from me. They really liked it. Yours could be a C. It could be 3 out of 5 stars or 5 out of 5 stars. But that thesis statement is, I love it. It gets a 2 thumbs up for me. It was okay. I give it thumbs in the middle. It was horrible. I give it 1 out of 5 stars, right? Whatever that is, you're going to have that as your thesis statement. And then you're going to predict what your examples are going to be. And their examples were service, food, and location, right? Yours might be the animation. I didn't like the music, but I thought it was kind of funny, right? So the reasons why you like or dislike it, categories, okay? All right, and then each body paragraph goes over one of those categories in detail. So this one is going to spend a whole paragraph talking about the service. Yours might spend a whole paragraph talking about how you thought it was funny and what parts of it did you think were funny, right? And then their next paragraph was about the quality of the food. Your second paragraph might be the quality of the animation, or it might be the music that went in the background, or it might be the message of it. Like, I really liked the message that it was conveying, right? And you get that across in some details there. And then her third paragraph is just as she promised it would be in her thesis paragraph. She's talking about convenience. And your third one might be that you didn't like one of the characters, or that it turned out really weird, or there was some weird moment in it that just ruined it for you. Wow, the language here got kind of salty and I was embarrassed by that, and I don't think people should be watching things with salty language, that kind of thing. And you can say, I didn't like that part, that ruined it for me. And then you talk about that in a paragraph. So really straightforward essay, and then wrapping it up, making sure that, this was okay and this was okay, but this was bad, and that brought the grade down overall. Remember, summarizing and assessing your examples, restating it. I really don't think anybody should be showing this to their children. Thought it was offensive, bad message, don't like it, right? And then what to do next. You should try it, you should watch it, you should avoid it at all costs. And what happens if I disagree with you? If you think this is good and you show it to your kid, they're going to be doing this for the next 4 weeks, and you're going to have to deal with it, right? And so, again, make sure you've made it important to your reader, and then sign out. Just say, oh, just stay away from this one. Or you should definitely go try this restaurant. Or you should definitely take 10 minutes out of your day and watch this film. So that's what we're aiming for overall, right? The assignment this week, excuse me, the assignment this week is just an outline. Okay, so we're going to watch the films. We're going to do a discussion board. I'm going to move the quiz down so it's with the other stuff so it doesn't get lost. If you put it somewhere new, it's going to get lost. Stop. Behave. God, I hate really. Let's make sure it moved. It did. Yay. Okay. I hate moving things because you can see it like fast scroll all of a sudden. All right. You'll have a quiz on evaluative writing, which I think is a pretty easy quiz. You'll have a discussion board on Wednesday. The discussion board is just, here was my favorite. I liked it the best because 5 to 7 sentences, just pre-writing, getting your ideas out. And the worst one was, I hated this one the most, and I didn't like it because, and remember, this is relative. If you didn't like any of them, there was one you hated less than the others. Make that one the best, right? And then there was one you truly are just like mad that I made you watch and put that one last. If they were all in the middle, I don't really care. Throw a dart and make one be on the top and one be on the bottom, right? If you liked them all, again, there was one you liked the best and one you liked the least, right? If you liked them all, you're a very happy person. I love you. You're great. But there was one that was less than the other. So it's relative. So don't just be like, I liked them all. We're ranking them, right? You can like them all, but you're ranking them in the Miss America rankings. Who's winning and who's coming in second runner-up? Yeah? Okay. They're all lovely ladies. They'll all leave with a sash and a bouquet. But who's going to get the crown, right? And who's not getting a scholarship? Boo-hoo. Okay. All right. So that's your discussion board. Your outline that's due is modeled for you in this handout with the sample evaluative outline. So I'm going to open this up. Okay. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. There are 2 outlines here, but you only need to write one. Okay, so there are 2 that are modeled here for you. The first one is modeled here for you because it matches the outline for the restaurant. Okay, so this and the sample essay go together, and I put it there so you could see how the outline and the sample essay connect so that you can make that really clear connection. So you can see the A+ rating. She planned the service to be the first paragraph, the food to be the second paragraph, and the location to be the third paragraph. And if you read the sample essay and the sample outline, you see how they go together. You can just watch them click, right? And I want you to be able to see how the outline and the essay click, right? So I gave you that one. And then down below, I gave you one that was for a film, a short film, but not one of the films you're using, right? So again, we're using this for structure as a model to follow so that ours is having that thesis statement, I hate this, don't watch it. And then the reasons, the message was immoral, it was too violent, and the animation was clumsy. Your reasons for not liking it, okay? So make sure that you're following that. Number 1 is your thesis, A, B, C are your reasons, and your 1, 2, and 3s are your details. Okay, if you're struggling with details, I want to remind you of an easy way to make sure you have at least 3 details, is to grab a detail from the beginning of the film, the middle of the film, and the end of the film. And that way you can make sure you have enough details, right? You can have more than 3 details, that's fine too. If something's funny and there's like 4 things you thought were funny, put them all in, that's fine, okay? If something was annoying and it did it like 8 times, tell me 4 or 5 of those times. You don't have to tell me all 8. It might drag on a bit, but we'll get the idea, right? But choose one from the beginning, the middle, and the end if you're stuck for figuring it out. The other thing is if you're having a hard time coming up with 3 examples, maybe that's not the best criteria. And an example of that is when students say it's boring. It's really hard. It might be boring. There's one of these films that I have never been able to pay attention to all the way through. I get bored by it. I'm so bored by it, I would never write about it because I can't pay attention enough to what happens at the end to say anything smart about it. I don't like it. It's dumb. But it's really hard for me to write a paragraph about what's boring because I stopped watching. Right now, if you can break down what was boring, it didn't have any dialogue. It was just bouncing around. It wasn't very visually interesting. Because they weren't talking, every time I'd look away, I'd miss something and I'd come back. I didn't know what was going on. And I lost the thread and I was bored, right? If it was going along okay and then it just got draggy in a particular section, you can talk about that too. But be careful of bored. It may be actually kind of hard to talk about. Does that make sense? So you might pick I wouldn't pick something I was bored by because I probably didn't pay enough attention to it to grab any details, right? So pick something you hate rather than something you're bored by. That way you can at least get some passion behind it. Okay. And then it does remind you that your outline should help you plan your conclusion a little bit. I just like to bring those examples together again at the end. The bad message, the violence, and the clumsy animation made this hard to watch. If you're trying to show kids a movie about bullying, don't pick this one. Just reminding you that the end of your outline should help you plan your concluding paragraph as well as your body paragraph. Questions about the outline that we're working on?